Good evening. I call this meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. There are 4 items on this evening's general agenda. We have an item discussing professional architectural design services for 3 police district offices. There is a report on the Nitty Gritty Soul Cafe. There is an item discussing an ordinance amending city code regarding motor vehicles and traffic. And the 4th item is an item from the Winston-Salem Police Department discussing the 2013 annual statistical report. Items on the consent agenda will be unanimously approved unless pulled by a council member or committee member. Committee members, with that being said, are there any items that should be pulled for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Item G1, please.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Architectural Design Associates, PLLC, for professional architectural design services for 3 police district offices in the estimated amount of $595,000.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
say something?
Mayor Pro Temp.
We discussed this in the Finance Committee meeting. I don't know if anyone has given you a report about what our findings were.
I have heard that this item has been held in committee by Finance. Mr. Turner, is there anything additionally that you wish to say? If not, we'll hold this item in committee as well.
That'll be fine.
Is that okay with the committee?
Yes.
We'll hold item 1 in committee, and we'll discuss that at a later date. Item G2. Thank you, Mayor Pro Temp.
Report on Nitty Gritty Soul Cafe, LLC. This item was continued from the June meeting of the Public Safety Committee.
Fellow council members, members of the committee, as you know, on February 16th of 2013, there was a situation where 1 person was killed and 3 were injured at the Nitty Gritty Soul Cafe. Since that time, a community meeting was held by a number of the staff members, including myself, with the Southcrest community and some of the surrounding neighborhoods. Eventually, we met with the owners, and a safety plan was put in place to make sure that that community stays safe and that the Nitty Gritty Soul Cafe would continue to be allowed to operate there as a business. As we know, this item comes up for expiration on August the 14th of this year, and I will now turn it over to our city attorney, Attorney Carmen, who will fill us in on the rest of the details.
Chairman Taylor, as Councilman Taylor has mentioned, this agreement was entered into basically a year ago as a result of the incident that occurred on February 16, 2013. The safety plan, essentially, one of the biggest components was to provide at the facility on-site security on Friday and Saturdays. And also, the establishment could not have parties after a certain hour, after I think it was 9 p.m. And so those parties ceased as well. And based upon a police report that were pulled for a year's time period, basically the time period covered by the agreement, it appears that all the security checks have revealed that the establishment was in compliance, it has been in compliance with the agreement since it was entered into. And I basically have found no reason to continue to try to hold the establishment to the agreement because it does appear they've been in compliance. So based upon that, and also what I understand to be some input from the community surrounding the establishment that indicates pretty much they've been in compliance and that they wish the establishment to remain there, remain open to serve the community, I would recommend that we just move forward and let the agreement expire.
Council members, we've heard the report by our attorney, Attorney Carmen. Also, I want to let you know that the owners of Nitty Gritty Soul Cafe are here if you have any questions. I will just add, before I take it to the table for questions and discussion, that I did meet with the Southcrest community on May the 13th of this year. And the Southcrest community is also known as Hemingway, if you're from this area. But the community is overwhelmingly in support of moving forward with the Nitty Gritty Soul Cafe. They've indicated, just as our attorney stated, that things have been going well with the community and with the business, and they'd like to see them continue to operate in that capacity. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Chair. I guess my question is about holding the games. They've complied. Okay, what is built in that when, let's say, and I don't want anything to happen, but things do happen, just like last year, what happens if the place of business, there's a turnaround and something happens again? What's in place?
Well,
I mean, will we deal with it, as Attorney Carmen said, when we get there again? Or do you feel, as the council member for the area, that the business establishment owners understand the importance of compliance going forward, and with the community support, that what their customer expectations are in that community?
I believe that the business understands the needs of the community in terms of safety going forward. We always have one option on the table, and that is to seek nuisance abatement. I will look to our attorney, because I am not an attorney, Councilmember Adams, but I do know that we have that option. Nothing in the last year has indicated to us that nuisance abatement is necessary, but we always have that option on the table if necessary. And before I come to Mayor Pro Temp, Attorney Carmen, you want to add?
Well, that is correct, and certainly we have to make sure we have enough evidence to sustain a nuisance abatement action. But I think based upon, again, the compliance of the establishments with the agreement that's been in place and wishes of the community, I think, from what I understand, the establishment understands its obligation in terms of security and to the community. And I would just simply let the agreement expire, and if something else happens in the future, we'll deal with it at that point in time.
Thank you.
Councilmember Burt.
I was just going to say, Mr. Chairman, that you as a council person, you did a very good job in working with the city, with the neighbors, and with the business people. That's what I call partnership and trying to solve a problem. However, I know that Councilwoman Adams brought up a good point, but we're hearing what the attorney has to say. And I think we have worked with them. They have worked with us. And I feel that we should move forward with the attorney's suggestions and recommendations.
All right, Councilmember Light.
No, I was just going to make a motion.
Does anyone else wish to be heard on this item? Well, I guess we will formally get a motion from the Public Safety Committee. Councilmember Light is recognized.
I'll move that we allow the agreement with the Nitty Gritty Soul Cafe to expire.
I second, Mr. Chairman.
All right, it's been motioned and properly second. Is there any other discussion on the table? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. It is unanimous. We will move forward, and the contract expires on August the 14th of 2014. Thank you. Item G3.
Discussion of ordinance amending Chapter 42 of the City Code entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. This item was continued from the May meeting of the Public Safety Committee.
Members of the committee, we've discussed this item at length in committee. I will turn it over to our city attorney. I understand that she has some amendments and some ideas she wishes to discuss at this time.
That's correct. Thank you once again. If you'll look at the item which starts on the actual ordinance, starts on page 17, I have made the changes that were discussed at the last Public Safety Committee meeting back in May, and those changes are pretty much underlined. As you'll see, the golf cart ordinance will address gas-powered or electric golf carts. That's on 17. And on page 18, I did include just some general appearance standards. That's in 42-293B. That language is underlined. And I also emphasized in E that all laws pertaining to open containers will apply to golf carts operated on city streets, and emphasized in F that the vehicles not only have to be equipped with seat belts, but they have to be worn. Then if you go to page 19, you'll see that, again, seat belts have to be buckled. That's in G. Added that language. And then I added on page 20, section 42-295, appearance of drivers, just a few standards regarding appearance of drivers, all in response to the comments I heard from members of the Public Safety Committee back in May. There are a few outstanding questions I do need some, I guess, direction on. Those questions relate to, I guess, in terms of operation of golf carts. Right now, there's no fee proposed or a cap or limit on any fee that might be proposed because I understood that the gentleman that asked for the golf cart ordinance wasn't interested in charging a fee. But do you want me to build in a fee structure like you have for taxi cabs in section 78-233 of the taxi cab ordinance? There is a maximum fee that can be charged for pickup and drop-off. For each 1/7 mile, 30 cents, and for each hour of wait time is $18. I did not put in a fee structure, but if that's something the committee wants me to look at, I certainly can. And then, of course, do you want this to be, in terms of jurisdiction and oversight, do you want this to be in the police department, or do you want it to be in the city's Department of Transportation, where I guess vehicles for hire is housed? So those are two basic questions I need to.
All right, I guess we'll take them one at a time. We'll take the concept of a fee structure into consideration. I know that the original petitioners here, he has indicated, as the attorney has stated, that he does not wish to charge to ride the golf carts downtown. However, I believe that they will accept tips. You know, competition always strives to market, and there is a possibility that another company could come behind this company and started charging a fee, you know, to ride the golf cart. So do we want to put a fee schedule in place, yea or nay, and we'll accept discussion and try to get it all worked out here in committee. Councilmember Lightning, Councilmember Adams.
Would you use the same fee schedule as for taxis, or would it be more like anywhere within the central business district charges $2 or something like
I
that?
think we have to come up with something different, because as I was looking at the taxi cab structure, I'm not sure it would apply very well to
Yeah.
golf carts, especially since they're limited to the central business district.
Yeah.
So I have to come up with something, but if that's what you all want me to look at, I'll certainly look at some options and bring them back to you.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
want to know if you want to
Mr.
spend-
Chairman, I certainly think that we need to have that to keep someone less friendly to the riding public from taking advantage. So I think it would be a good thing to have in the ordinance.
Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Councilmember Taylor, and that's where I was going with this as well. It's better to have it than not to have it, and I agree with Councilmember Light that there could be others, because there is no fee schedule and some other things. They might tell our citizens, well, you know, I can take you for $10. You know, I would rather that we put it in place in case there's an audit for compliance to the ordinance, that we find out that somebody is abusing it and taking advantage, then we can move forward with that. One of the other questions that I wanted to ask or say with the fee schedule as well is the liability. If I'm a person, and not saying that the person that proposed it is liable, but if I'm driving a golf cart, and I've seen people drive carts on the golf course that they don't need to be driving them, but I'm saying it's a safety, it's a vehicle just like a car or anything else. And I'm wondering if an accident or something happens, who's liable for this? Is it us because we granted the ordinance, or is it the person that is, and how do we ensure that? I mean, I don't want to put any added burden on the proposed person doing this, but you got to protect the people that are riding as well. I also would like to ask our attorney to look at other cities to benchmark to see if there are fee schedules in place, such as the resort areas where you see the golf carts being used to transport people all the time, as vis-a-vis the bike carts. I know whenever I travel to cities, the bike cart people, they charge, and you pay, you know, after you get out, you got to pay them for however far they took you. I don't even know how they do that, but there is a fee. So that's all I have.
All right, so what we'll do is direct staff, Mr. City Manager, to look at other cities and how they do business in terms of golf carts. I'll turn it to our city attorney, and I believe that the question of liability is addressed in the proposed ordinance, but I'll let her discuss that.
It's in section 42-294. Basically, the person who wishes to operate the golf cart on city streets has to have current liability insurance. So the city would not be responsible just because it has an ordinance. It's the person that's operating the golf cart, providing the service and so forth, that would be responsible.
And while we're on the topic, how can we verify and make sure that that liability insurance is in place?
That would be one of the things as part of the safety check that we do every year. We check on the insurance, make sure it's current, and then also require that any changes to it, that we be notified of that as well.
Okay, thank you. Have your questions been satisfied?
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember McIntosh is recognized.
I'm going to go the other direction on the setting a rate structure. This proposal came to us from an entrepreneur. This wasn't our idea. We would have never thought about the prospect of allowing golf carts downtown. I think we need to be careful to not try to limit this, because we don't know what other people are going to come in and say, well, this model works for him, this other model may work for me. I think the market's going to take care of somebody doing $10 an hour when you've got somebody who's providing free transportation. So I just don't think we know enough about where this is going. I think we'll have an opportunity to come back later if we do see abuses to re-regulate. I kind of like to give a little more freedom to the operators to see how they want to make it work.
Yeah, I'm going to come to Councilman Montgomery. Councilman McIntosh, may we suggest a proposed ceiling and floor? We can't tell them exactly what to charge. What if we set a ceiling of $10 and a floor of maybe $1 and leave it up to the discretion of the operators and kind of let competition thrive in the market?
Again,
maybe my numbers were not good numbers, but nevertheless the concept is the same.
If somebody's going to bring about a service that's valuable enough to spend $12 on a golf cart ride downtown, I think you should be given the opportunity to let that happen. Because it's a small town. Word's going to get around real quick if you're overcharging, I believe. So I'm cautious on setting those limits when we don't really kind of know where we're going with it.
Okay. Councilman Montgomery.
In reference to first the fee and setting that, I do believe that in looking at this, although we have the petitioner, just like all the other ordinances we have put in place, they're universally applicable, meaning that anybody who wishes to do certain things, they must abide by those rules, no matter if they're here now or in the future. And then with other ordinances, if they're violated, you have that penalty that goes along with it. And when we had this initial conversation, it was the comparison between the taxi cabs and this service, which again, it's different because of the fact you're limited to the central business district. But I do believe that there is some sense in terms of at least having an idea of that. I do think that that there's opportunity to leave it open and look at it, but I think we do need to at least be prepared and look at that picture of what that will actually be in comparison, as Councilman Adams said, to what are other cities who have this doing. Are they charging now or not? Are they using the same model? Are they having a ceiling or a floor on those things? I think those are things that we need to know and get that back in information from staff. One thing I will say is in reference to some of the recommended changes here on page 19, B, something brought up before in reference to the appearance piece. And it says in terms of the golf cart be free of dents, creases, blemishes, ripples, rust, holes, and other defects or damages which impair their safety, servability, and appearance. And I understand where we're going with that, and I know that that was a conversation in terms of not wanting folk to have, these old, raggedy, rusty golf carts riding around. The only piece that comes to mind there is taxi cabs. There's some ugly taxi cabs riding around town, and so if we do is here, my request would be that we look at if we're able to with taxi cabs to have the same appearance kind of stuff. And then also I was looking for what constitutes servability, and is that left up to discretion of folks. So if you have somebody who comes in for an inspection who brings that golf cart in and they have a dent or a ding, but it works fine, it doesn't impair the safety, and they say, this person says, hey, yours fine, and you come back in with a similar dent, and they say, well, no, you got to fix that. Is that listed there? Did I miss where that standard is, or how do we get there?
Well, let me answer your first question. This language actually came out of the taxi cab ordinance.
Okay.
It's where it is, and so it's.
We need to enforce that then.
I agree with you.
Mr. Turner here.
Okay.
So it's the same standard that I thought perhaps might be applicable to golf carts. But it does, you know, if it still, I guess, operates and doesn't really impact safety, then it probably is still serviceable, can be used. But I'm relying upon sort of what we've done with respect to standards in taxi cabs to try to use that and layer it onto the golf carts.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense in just making sure that the standard, whatever standard we set, is used across the board, so that we're not treating individuals differently.
Yeah, and I've got so many things to say about that, and I'll try to pull back. But what I want to do is kind of table the discussion towards user fees, and when it comes to appearance, we can kind of discuss that on the second part of this thing in terms of enforcement. If that's okay with you, Councilman Montgomery, and I'm going to come right back to you when we talk about enforcement. But does anybody else want to be heard in reference to the fee schedules? Yes, ma'am. Councilman Burke.
In reference to the fee schedule?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I do think we need to have some type of guidelines. If we can prevent something, because as the attorney was saying, as you all were talking, I thought about the struggle we went through with the cabs. It was a struggle. And so if we can get beyond that struggle and have things in place, I think we're more consistent.
Okay. What it sounds to me, I've heard one maybe in dissent and the rest in consenting. This doesn't have to move forward today.
Right.
I understand this item is just for information and for discussion. I will address City Manager Garrity and Attorney Carmen. If we could just kind of get a fee schedule, and let's talk about how that looks. In the meantime, once we get it, we evaluate it, we look at how other cities are doing it, and then we'll talk about whether we put that in place or not. But at least we'll measure 10 times and cut once, and I believe it may be appropriate to do that. Is it okay with you, Councilmember McIntosh?
Sure.
All right. Now, in reference to, you want to be heard in reference to the user fee?
No.
Anybody
I have
else? User fee?
I have another.
Okay, so we'll move forward with that. Now, let's talk a little bit about enforcement. This could be enforced by the City Department of Transportation or by the Winston-Salem Police Department. There are pros and cons to both, and I guess appearance is in that category. Councilmember Montgomery, do you want to touch on that, or do you want to move forward? You good? Councilmember Adams.
My other issue is the traffic pattern. I think we need to launch a prototype ride or rides with golf carts during our busy hours or whatever downtown to see how this goes. Because again, a Friday, Saturday night after 6 or 7 o'clock downtown is different from a Friday, Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning downtown or any other time. I just think for experiment's sake, we need to get whoever it is, transportation police, in a golf carts, and they ride downtown. They need to do this, and they need to do it when the traffic and the people are down there, when you got cars on both sides of 4th, Cherry Marshall, 6, whatever. We need to do this, I think.
And
Just
Mr.
a
Manager,
suggestion.
that's not a problem to do a pilot run once the time comes.
Certainly can do that and do a pilot run.
I think that's a good idea, Councilman Adams. Councilmember Burke?
Also, you need to look at when we also had the horses downtown. We stopped and go back and review that and see what problems we had. And you talk about who's going to be in charge of it. I think we need to seriously understand if it's going to be police or transportation. Now, we went through some struggles with transportation, and I don't think they quite fine-tuned some of that stuff they ought to themselves. So the mistakes that have been made concerning transportation, how they have directed it, if the police take charge, then they ought to be together in understanding the guidelines. And then another question, I'll ask this to the city manager. Why did we even think about taking it out of having transportation being, and then say police made a recommendation, or if we made one?
I believe that the question came up because the Transportation Department is the one who administers and inspects the taxi cabs. Mm-hmm. On the other side, though, we have the downtown bike patrol is already downtown in the Central Business District with a facility, an office, and whether they might be more suited to deal with just these which are just downtown. I
Just
believe that
the
Angela could
the
probably,
district.
the city attorney could probably
Right.
mention.
And then some of the other municipalities that I looked at where they have a golf cart ordinance, the enforcement rested in the police department. So that's why it also started out in the police department.
Okay. Councilmember McIntosh and Councilmember Light.
It seems to me the enforcement part is kind of two sort of separate things. One is the inspection side of it, the other is the moving side of it.
Well, then, when I say enforcement, I mean inspections and everything coupled with that in terms of who's going to actually inspect the vehicles to make sure they're in compliance, and then if there's an issue, deal with enforcement as well. So in the other municipalities, that inspection and enforcement part was in the police department.
Does the police department do anything of that nature now in terms of inspection? I mean, it seems to me like that might be kind of recreating the wheel.
I'm not sure that they do.
Chief Roundtree is recognized.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We do have a leg of our professional standards division that serve as tax inspectors also, but they're not the primary for it.
Chief, could you repeat that, please?
We do have a leg of our professional standards division that also serve as tax inspectors.
So you feel like you would have the capacity and the wherewithal to carry out that part of it?
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
We could if need be.
Okay. And I guess the other part of this is, you know, like I said, you're going to have the downtown bike patrol, and they're going to be eyes on while vehicles are on the street, you know, down there performing their duties or whatever. Versus the other side of it is off hours when somebody says, I want to put this into service. And so is the police department the best one to do that side of it? I'm not sure I believe
Yeah.
they are.
I don't know in terms of off hours, that might be a problem in terms of DOT.
There's no DOT staff off hours for this function, other than when we have a need to do an inspection. And the other part of this is, how many vehicles are we talking about? I mean, we're probably talking about a very small.
Probably a small number,
Yeah.
I would think.
Okay. And then just one thing I want to raise as a concern of mine is that I do believe that we could see a difference in the performance or people's attitudes about electric carts versus gas carts. If you're around gasoline carts, most of them run pretty smoothly, but when they start to get ragged, they blow a bunch of smoke, and they're very uncomfortable to be around. So I think at some point we need to have that built into there as well.
We can direct that comment towards DOT or the police department, whoever's responsible for inspecting. Councilmember Light, then Councilmember Burke.
Well, the same discussion that Councilmember McIntosh was having. Do the police and DOT, are y'all going to fight over who gets to do this? No, it seems to me, since the police department does have the personnel, not only from the inspections part of it, but also the downtown patrol to, regulate it, whereas DOT does not. It would seem to me that that sort of answers the question of who should be in charge of it.
Councilmember Burke.
The reason I asked the question about the police, because at times they have said, may Chief come up here and answer the question, please?
Yes, ma'am. Chief Roundtree.
Excuse me, what was the question again?
I haven't asked it yet.
Okay.
I'm getting ready to get to it. We have had from observation about the use of police their valuable times, and we don't like to think of them, and I'm not saying this duty would not be valuable, but as we train our police and how many of them we have who can get into active duty, I'm concerned, tell me about the workforce. Who from your police department would be assigned, what kind of duties are they already in that you would say would be assigned to that duty, Chief?
Well, if we keep it consistently with our professional standards division, we only have 3 employees in that area. And we serve as not the primary, but we serve as a leg of the inspection process. Our city DOT is the main group that inspects the taxis.
So if I were a taxpayer and I'm listening to this, when you say the leg of those 3, what are their training? Who are they? Not by name, but who are and what do they actually do?
Well, they're assigned to the professional standards division, which is our internal affairs section. and they investigate complaints. And mainly, that's their function in the taxi cab process, and the records is for the complaints. And then they refer the information back to either DOT or either the Record Association.
Mr. Chairman, are you saying to me you already would have someone that would fit into it without taking anything away from the duties of your police department?
Well, it would give them some extra duties. Like I stated, there are only 3 employees in the area, and that's a small process of what they do.
Tell me, what do they do?
They investigate citizen complaints. They investigate internal complaints. They work with the Police Citizen Review Board and also the DOT with the taxi and the record associations.
All right.
And Chief, we know that the police have a primary responsibility of fighting crime. And I guess, Councilman Burke, we just want to make sure that if we put the responsibility on the police department, we're not taking man or woman hours away from fighting crime and moving them towards inspecting golf carts downtown.
I think it would some, but if you're going to be consistent, if I could.
Please.
My personal opinion, probably DOT would be the best place to house it.
I don't think anybody's opposed to you giving your personal opinion. That's why we asked you to come up here. We want to know what you think. Councilmember, Montgomery, please forgive me.
And looking at this in terms for the registration of taxi cabs now, what is the fee standard for them? Don't they register a piece of that in terms of their fee when they register with the city?
I think there's an application fee. Mr. Turner may know the process certainly better than I do.
Mr. Turner?
They have an application fee and they have an annual fee that they pay for their inspections.
And where do those funds go to?
Go to the general fund.
They go into the general fund. Okay. The reason I was asking that was that whether or not, based upon both sides, and I know that from the police department side and from transportation, I know both of them would probably say that they would prefer for either side to take on, and I don't blame it because, again, I'm sure you all are working, as we all know, have been forced to work harder with less and do more with less, and so adding additional responsibilities could become cumbersome in that process. So I was just wondering whether or not there were any funds that would allow for, whether it was a part-time person or something like that, to actually facilitate not just for the duties of golf carts, but for both of sides of that when it comes to the taxi cabs and the golf cart pieces of that, so that you're not having that burden on any one piece of that. But what I think we should look at again in terms of where it's going to have the least amount of impact on the additional regular operations. And if this is something that we foresee to grow, and then we also have to be cognizant of that fact as well. And it may be something at a later time that we realize that, hey, well, this was not the right area to place this because it has become too much and it takes away from the current duties.
I think you bring up a great point, especially if this thing takes off. The additional revenue, this would be additional new revenue coming to the city, and it could create a larger degree of burden. Mr. Manager, could the monies raised go towards the hiring of another position? Now, we're not saying we want to do that, but we always want to evaluate all aspects of the plan. I think we're looking at $25 for a permit.
What I put on page 20, assume it's the same in your book. It's 42,294 D as in door. Inspection by police department includes permit sticker, $25 annually. Reinspection by police department, $15. And then replacement sticker or permits, $20.
Councilmember Montgomery?
And one last thing on that as well, in terms of transportation, in order for them, if this was in the transportation area and currently with taxi cabs, where do they actually go to get inspected?
We typically will come to wherever their facility is and do the inspection there.
Okay, because that was another question in reference to location, but if they actually go to the location, that takes that away.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like right now it would support another staff member, but we could just evaluate it and bring it back. Councilmember Light, now come around the table.
In fact, I was going to say it's going to take a heck of a lot of golf carts to pay for an extra person.
768, I just.
So, at any rate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Burke?
And I can see the golf carts being used more when you have certain events going on. Like if with the Black Festival we have people who don't want to walk, they love to get on a golf cart. And maybe with River Run you may have, but we don't really have that many big conferences to create a lot of golf carts right now.
We hope
don't
so.
know,
Hopefully.
but we may. And a lot of folks like to walk now, and they do a lot of walking to these events. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have to say about that.
Councilman McIntosh?
At one point during the conversation, we had talked about there being sort of landing zones or loading zones, and I don't see anything in here about that. Were we going to talk about designating areas that where these could stop and load, or are we just going to?
I mean, we could talk about that.
Like a golf cart stand.
Yeah, stopping right on 4th Street to let off passengers on a Friday night is probably not the best thing for folks.
Give me 1 second.
I didn't see it in here.
Because I think they're supposed to pull off, I guess, to the right.
It says to the right of way.
Yeah. Where are you reading?
I'm on page, I'm sorry, 19.
Okay.
Look up at the top. Golf carts shall not be operated on sidewalks or right-of-ways.
I mean, if you want something more definitive, I can certainly look at adding something more definitive.
I'm just looking for other input on that. I think it's necessary.
Stopping in the middle.
They have to abide by all traffic laws and regulations adopted by the state and, of course, the city.
And I think in order to prevent mass chaos, now if we're talking about 1 or 2, there may not be such a problem. But if we're talking about 10 or 15, then I think there should be some type of stand where we alert the downtown associations and let them know, well, if you want a taxi cab, you go to this place. They will be here. They will drop off here. Just kind of have designated points. It makes sense to kind of have a little bit of organized chaos. But Councilman Adams?
And that's basically what I was talking about a prototype drive, Councilmember Taylor. In the drive, you're looking for things like that. Like if we're driving or riding in this cart, where would I get off at that would not cause a safety issue for the passengers, the driver, and other citizens? Because now you got all of these 3 or 4 pieces that are now getting ready to converge upon each other. So what Councilmember McIntosh is saying, I think that's where you look for that as you do that prototype drive. Best places to drop off or pick up, possibly.
Councilmember Montgomery?
Can I make one point?
Excuse me.
Councilmember Montgomery, excuse me. Just so you know, right now, golf carts cannot be driven on city streets without actually having an ordinance, so we may have to put something in place to do that prototype drive,
Right.
but anyway, we'll figure it out.
Right. Councilmember Montgomery?
Only issue that comes up with me in terms of actually having quote-unquote loading, unloading zones is, again, look at equity in reference to taxi cab. If I call a taxi cab and I'm at the Seafood Shack, or, no, it's not Seafood Shack.
King's Crab.
King's Crab Shack. Yeah, I'm in Walkertown.
Yeah, you are way in.
But I'm there, and I call a taxi. Come and get me. Taxi's going to come, and the taxi needs to move out of, as best it can, out of the flow of traffic, which on those streets you're still going to be in somewhere in the traffic piece. But then if it's I guess if we build the culture that these are the places you go, it'll work. I just wonder whether or not that impedes the actual service, because if you don't see the folk getting on and off, you'll never know how you get on those. And then that may be where our downtown ambassadors come into place, and they tell you, well, this is where you go to get on. But that's just the only concern that I have with how does that impact, the real service that they want to provide. Because if I want to go to a place and then have to walk back up the hill and make the left to get back there because the loading zone's there, and I could walk this way and I wouldn't have to go that way.
What's the use of getting in the golf cart?
Yeah. So
Do we want to ask the gentleman who?
Yeah, well, maybe we can have that discussion with the downtown partnership when we start talking about the bid. I know we do have a board in place, and the bid is in place. We're ready to go. And, I guess the next time it comes back to the committee for discussion, we could at least talk about, the golf cart stands, yay or nay, and let's get some input from some of the residents and business owners downtown through the downtown partnership. As was pointed to my attention by Councilmember McIntosh, the petitioner is here, and I want to know if you want to add anything to the discussion, either of you. I do know it's a joint venture. And as you come up, if you'd give your name and address for the record, please.
Reed Hinesley, 237 South Cliffdale Drive. You guys talked about a lot today, covered a lot. I'm trying to keep up. Some of my notes I've written, talking about speed and impeding traffic. Golf carts move at about 20 miles per hour. Traffic downtown moves at about 8 miles per hour. The segways that we already allow on the city streets, they move at about 12.5 miles per hour. The carriages, again, 8 to 10 miles per hour. So we're moving at double those guys' speed. Let's see. Somebody mentioned a prototype route and what kind of effect a cart may have on the city streets. The city already does that. It's been doing it for years with the parking meter readers. They move through the streets all day during peak traffic and slow traffic. I don't think there's been any issues with those, have there? Does anybody know of any incidents where that may have caused trouble?
Not that we're aware of, Mr. Hansley.
Somebody talked about the events that we might be able to give people better access to. Downtown has currently 1,000+ events planned, and that grows every year. I'm hoping to be a part of that growth. I think that's the only things from the conversation that we defer from what you guys have said. We pretty much agree with a lot of things you guys are saying, a lot of things you guys are putting in place. I happen to agree with Mr. McIntosh over here about the cap on the charging. If someone decides to charge for rides, I think the market probably handle that itself, especially with taxi cabs being as expensive as they are. If a golf cart, someone wanted to charge rides for that, to go over the price of a cab, why not just take the cab? So, I think that's everything I need to address. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask me?
Are there any questions, Mr. Hansley? Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Members of the committee, members of the council, we've had another good discussion about this. We do know there's some other details we need to bring back to the table for discussion, but it seems to me that the general consensus is to move forward with the concept. Madam City Attorney, you've heard some of the suggestions and concerns. If you will compile them and address them accordingly at our next meeting of the Public Safety Committee. Anything else for the good of this matter? All right, we'll move forward. Item G4.
Winston-Salem Police Department 2013 Annual Statistical Report.
Chief Roundtree is recognized.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
Mayor Pro Tem Burke, Chairman Taylor, and other council members. I won't be before you long. I wanted to briefly discuss the highlights of the 2013 Police Department's annual report. I do realize that you have a complete copy in your book. Also, I provided an additional copy for you tonight for your review at a time that you choose. Just a brief rundown, Police Department's budget. You can see the breakdown of our expenses, starting with patrol response down through crime prevention for a grand total of $62,576,000. Speaking of crime, our crime index compared for the last 5 years. Of course, our total crime was down 4.9%. We were up in a few categories, specifically the category of murder or homicide that we've discussed before, but we were down in aggravated assaults, about 13%. We were down in our burglaries, 13.5%, and we were down in motor vehicle theft, 3.8%. So total crime for 2013, we were down 4.9% compared to 2012. And you can see the previous years of our crime statistics. Overview again, 2013 compared to 2012. Violent crime, we were down 7.1%. We had a decrease. We had a decrease in property crime, 4.6%. And our crime index decreased by 4.9%. Our clearance rates, murder through motor vehicle theft, I won't read each one, but you can see our clearance rate. And if you look at page 43 in your book, you can see how we compare to other cities in the South and also other cities across the U.S. In most categories, our clearance rate was better than the South and also better than other police departments in the U.S. for clearance in these categories. And I don't know what just happened. Looking at a 5-year trend for robberies, of course, for 2013 compared to 2012, we did have a slight increase, 3.7%. Our 5-year trend for aggravated assaults, again, we were down 13.1%. I think that's significant, but we didn't have as many of our citizens being assaulted with dangerous weapons, firearms, knives, and those kind of weapons. Our 5-year burglary trend, 2009 through 2013, you can see that there is a decrease, 13.5% decrease from 13 to 2012. I think that's also significant where we have fewer citizens have their home burglarized in 2013 compared to 2012. And our 5-year larceny trend, pretty much equal, but just 0.01% increase, 13 to compared to 2012. Motor vehicle theft was down. We have fewer citizens had their motor vehicle stolen in 2013 compared to 2012. It equated to a 3.8% decrease. Total crime in districts, just to give you a snapshot of our police districts, are pretty much equal across the city when you look at it. District 1, 34.6%. District 2, 30.4% crime, and District 3, 35.1%.
Chief, I hate to interrupt you, but there's been a question. Could you differentiate between some of the areas and some of the districts? We want to be sure, where each area is in reference to all of the districts you have color-coded here on your chart.
Okay. District 1 primarily is the northeast section of the city. Some of the, landmarks in District 1 would be Wake Forest University, the Haynesmere Road area, on around to US 52 and Bethania Rural Road, up in the northern tip of District 1, and also parts of downtown is included in District 1. District 2 would be more of the east and southeast portion of the city. Some of the landmarks in District 2 would be Winston-Salem State University, pretty much most of the majority of New Walkertown Road and the Martin Luther King corridor on down to the south side to the city limits of US 52 and Barnes Road area. District 3 is pretty much the west and southwest portion of the city. Some of the highlights in some of the landmarks in District 3 would be Haynes Mall, Country Club Road, Peace Haven Road area, back over to portions of Peters Creek Parkway down to the Davidson County line.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Response time, 2013, our stated goal is about 6 minutes for priority 1 calls. 2013, we responded to an average of our priority calls in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So we beat our stated response time by about 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Just some key highlights of some of the areas you'll be seeing next. Our Special Operations Division. Of course, this is highlighting the K-9 unit. You can see their total seizures in marijuana through cash money, which equated to about $1.4 million. Our Special Investigations Division, the cash values of their seizures, and it ranged from cocaine down to other miscellaneous materials and items. Total seizures equated to about $2.8 million. Also, it's important to note that under cash seizures, we had about $192,000, and most of that came back to the city of Winston-Salem through our asset forfeiture program. Our SROs also signed to our Educational Services Unit. Of course, we have 8 high schools. We have 12 middle schools that we're responsible for. Also, we do programs across the county in our Super Kids program. That program is functioning and running well, no real issues. Our Forensic Services Division, this area is very important in our solving of crimes. Of course, we were approved for 2014, 2015, 2 additional latent print examiners. You can see on the latent prints, those numbers are going up. I don't have the 2013 numbers, but I can the 2012 numbers, but the 2013 numbers, there were about 9,000, well, close to 10,000 latent prints that were examined, and we are examining more latent prints, and we're solving more crimes using our latent print examiners. Communication activity in 2013, of course, the calls that we receive are constantly increasing. A lot of that is the result of everybody has a cell phone. So it may be multiple reporting of one accident, for example. We may receive 5, 10 calls. But in 2013, Communications Division processed just a little over 477,000 calls. And that's for police and fire. Our Records Division, of course, they are the keeper of all our records. We have records dating back to the early 1900s that we're responsible for. So that group keeps up with our records, also our information in our National Crime Information Center for missing and wanted persons, our stolen property, and also the hot files for stolen vehicles, firearms, and those kind of valuables. Our Operations Support Division, pretty much they're responsible for most of the things that don't fall under patrol, and also in our Criminal Investigations Division. They're responsible for things like alarm permits, false alarm revenue. You see we collected $160,000. Our telecom response unit, that unit handles calls that we don't have to send a police officer out to someone's home. And we're constantly recruiting. Right now we have a class of our BLET class, class 67, is still in class. They're slated to graduate September the 15th of 2014. 2013 Officer of the Year was Officer Christopher Daff. He was selected due to his actions that took place when he conducted CPR on one of our citizens, and his efforts actually saved the citizen's life. Our Employee of the Year was Senior Public Safety Communication Operator Jamie Wright. She was instrumental in catching a suspect in a rape that took place at one of our local hotels, where she guided the officers to that location. And our Medal of Valor recipient was Officer Tim Wilson for his actions at one of our local high schools back last August of 2013. Any questions? I know it was a snapshot, but it is a lot of information on the booklet that you were provided. If you have any additional questions now or either later, please let me know.
I'll start by saying, Chief, we thank you for your commitment and your service to this community. Not only you, but all of the captains and lieutenants and assistant chiefs who are here and who support us every single day, put their lives on the line to keep us safe. I believe this was an excellent report. Members of the committee, are there any questions? Councilmember McIntosh.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the level of detail. I wonder if, in your mind, do you see trends emerging that you're concerned about? Going back through the numbers, are there things that you think we're going to be facing over the next year to 5 years that you think we need to pay special attention to?
Right now, as far as numbers wise, of course, we're concerned with the number of homicides that we have presently. Presently, we have 7. We're just a little over the halfway point of the year. Some of the things that they're represented in the book, but not necessarily some of the things that people think about a lot is the crimes associated with computers, cell phones, electronics. Those are some of the things that are emerging. We're seeing some of it here in the city. So those are some of the things that we're trying to prepare for.
Councilman Burke?
I was going to say thanks, Chief Roundtree, for this book. I'd like to go through them, and you have set yours up nice. I don't have to call the city manager and tell him it was not done properly, as I do. And that's good. And also, we had said at one time when you were going to be giving reports that the CALs would be the key people to make sure the presidents of these boards we represent, have they been issued so that when they go out and have their meetings and emphasize, Mr. City Manager, that when they go out to share this to me would be very good for them to look at. And then do we have this at any place like our libraries?
We don't have it on the library, but we do have a copy, electronic version that's presently posted on our website, and I can get that information to the CALs also.
I think what would be good is to take these to our recreation and community centers and have a hard copy so someone can look at it.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll go around the table. Councilmember Light?
Thank you very much. This is a good report, and hopefully in the second half of the year, we won't add to the murder numbers. Thanks, Chief.
Councilmember Montgomery?
Yes, again, thanks, Chief, for the hard work and what we see here in compiling this, and then moreover, the hard work that you all in the police department do every day in putting your lives on the risk to make sure that we all remain safe. One area that I do want to ask a question from, and the information may not necessarily come from you, I'm as city manager, particularly in some of the areas where we see some of the beats where we see some large incidents, particularly of drug use and drug calls. I would like to see some, and it may be, we may already have this information with some of the things that were done with the maps, but particularly looking at some of the additional socioeconomical things that may be going on in those areas, such as what's the median income in these areas, what are some additional things, just to get a better picture of these neighborhoods and these communities where these are going on. Because one, we know the police do all they can in trying to do that, but if we are able to see additional things that are happening in those neighborhoods, we may be able to partner better with trying to help provide the services to those neighborhoods, bringing them what they need so that some of these other issues that we see there, we don't see. Does that make sense?
It does.
And because in particular, I see here in District 2, that beat 221, 222, and 223 have, out of all of the beats, the largest numbers of calls in reference to drugs. And just so what's happening in those areas, many of us, if we look at the map, we can see where those are, but just from a factual standpoint, getting that information to really put together a better picture so that in working in conjunction with others, we can try to help better in those neighborhoods.
Councilmember Adams?
Thank you. Again, want to thank you guys for all your service that you provide. Again, you remind me of our bulletproof vests that we wear every day, and it's really transparent. We just take for granted that you're always there when we need you, you know. I agree with Councilmember Montgomery in the city, Mr. Garrity, as to how we move forward with these neighborhood associations and our partnerships with the CDCs and all of these people, again, that we give money to, and these organizations, nonprofits, that their purpose is to better the community, whether it's Neighbors for Better Neighborhoods or whatever. We now have to circle the wagons, I think, if we're going to take any leaps forward to improve our situation. Nobody wants to come to a city like Detroit right now, or Chicago. And we don't want to be, we're not that big, but we can be a medium-sized city that nobody wants to come to because of our data. says otherwise. They don't know about that it's safe, but in their minds, they're reading the data now and they go, oh, I don't know if we want to relocate there. They got a murder problem down there. I want us to start working collaboratively more, and maybe we got to take the initiative, Chief, to bring these groups to the table. And I know we have all of these talk sessions and things we have, but again, talk sessions are just talk sessions. I think we need to take away some action items here. Doesn't have to be a lot. It can be one or two, and we put a timeline to it. How are we improving our neighborhoods with these collaborations and partnerships that we have? We're trying to reinvent our recreation and parks area. I think now we need to look at, for 2014 going into 15, how do we make that quantum leap to improve our numbers even more? Because now that we got these numbers, great data, great report, if this time next year the numbers don't get better, Chair Taylor, then we just got data and we just got numbers, that's it. I want to see us, as Councilmember Montgomery said, we now got to go on the front. And if it means the council members got to help with that, then we're willing to step up, Chief. We just got to now work more as a team and not leave you guys out there all by yourself to get the job done when we can help you get it done too. So you need to be calling and circling the wagons now, and I'm going to be looking forward to you guys doing that. I like a good Thank you.
I think the repurposing of the rec centers is one action item, but another action item, which is a favorite of mine, and I'm going to put in a shameless plug here, is for the bond referendum. Inside of the bond referendum, in the public safety bonds, there is money to move forward with 3 police district officers.
Absolutely.
We discussed the architectural design, but I think the police district officers in communities will go a long way towards having that community and police presence. They're helping to reduce crime and those types of violent tendencies in some of our communities, well, in fact, all of our communities, because they will be strategically located. Mayor Pro Temp, and then Councilmember Montgomery.
I was going to say all things that we've heard we can take under consideration, and I, few days or weeks from now, some of us will be riding with the chief. One thing we talked about, visibility. Are we seeing more police out there? And to have your chief of police riding into the neighborhoods, that's a plus. And I appreciate what you're doing. One thing we have to keep in mind, Chief Roundtree is approachable. I was at a gathering that some of us were being recognized, and he got all of the applause from that particular setting because they appreciate him. You know, people know who you are. They can feel that sensitivity. I'm on him those times too.
Well, we have to be. That's our job.
But they know that when you care and when you don't care. And so one thing we need to improve, like you're saying, and I think we need to be accountable to the citizens, but seems like we're heading toward that direction.
Are you finished, Mr. President? Councilmember Montgomery.
Yeah, just to reiterate comment, I think Councilman Adams-Sandberg hit on it. I think these statistics and others are great things, and I don't think it takes away from the police department. One thing that I just really want to affirm is that the police can't do it all. And we have to understand that the police can't do it all. We can encourage them, we can support them, but oftentimes there are many other factors that create much of what they respond to. And so one thing I would also ask is we've looked at and we're looking at changing some of the things we do in reference to CDBG dollars, in reference to agencies as we brought up. And again, I think that these statistics need to be a part of that process. If you are not helping to meet a need that we have data to show, then what's your program really doing? It may not be this data, but the data that's out there, and if you're not helping us to meet those goals that we have in creating a better neighborhood, better communities, then we need to help you get to that place to say, hey, we want to help do this, because what does that do? That frees up police officers to do other things that they need to do, to be more visible in other places and to do additional work. So again, it's how do we make sure that we are working in community and with one another in that process. And so again, in that, I don't know how we can incorporate it when we're looking at those agencies, but I think it's important to make sure that those agencies are looking at this information and attempting to deal with it. Now, one agency is not going to solve all of the problems in one neighborhood, but it's a fact that they're not just existing just to exist, but really truly staying true to the purpose they're created, but then also helping to meet that need that we have in community. And creates better neighborhoods, greater community, we become better, higher quality of life, and we all have better for everyone. And last thing I will say, it's interesting to look at the data there, even though it's very small in difference in terms of the different districts there, 1, 2, and 3, but just how that crime is broken up, that's an interesting map as well.
Well, in conclusion, I think all of this good conversation touched on the heart of the matter. Chief, we appreciate you and the police department and all your statistics and everything you do for us.
Thank you.
But police can't do it by themselves.
Right.
It takes strong citizens, strong neighborhood groups, and strong organizations all pulling together with us and moving forward. Is there anything else for the good of this item, for the good of the order? Is there anyone who wishes to be heard? Chief Roundtree.
I'd like to recognize a few people tonight. We have Assistant Chief Connie Sullivan here tonight. She's the Assistant Chief in our Investigative Services Bureau. Of course, we have Assistant Chief Wilson Weaver, Assistant Chief in Field Services. Assistant Chief Blakely could not make it tonight. We also have a new captain. Come on up, Jay. Captain Jay Edwards. He's a 22-year veteran of the police department. He received an associate's degree from Tech in electronics engineering. He's also pursuing a bachelor's degree from Western Carolina University in criminal justice. He has a wide range of assignments in the police department, from patrol, special operations, recruiting, professional standards division. He's an active member of Cruz United Methodist Church. He's been married for 23 years, and he has 3 children. And he's the new District 3 commander.
All right.
All right. And Captain, it is customary that you give words.
Yes, sir. Well, I don't really have anything other than I do appreciate the opportunity to serve the citizens and city leaders as captain, and I look forward to working more closely with everyone here, and look forward to solving problems and challenges. And I just thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Captain, it's a pleasure to have you on, and we're looking forward to continue to work with you going forward. I would be remiss. Does anybody else have any comments? Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
I would be remiss not to mention one person who represents our fire department, and I want to recognize Chief Farmer for being here today. Chief, stand up so everybody can see you. We appreciate your service to our community as well. Is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, we will consider this meeting to stand adjourned.